is 3 meters less than, twice the width. So the two things that we're talking about is the length and the width. So I'll label length as x, width as y. So the first thing that's described is the length. So our length, which is x, is, which means equal, 3 meters less than, so I'm going to put my minus 3 at the end, twice the width, which is 2y, because y represents width. So that's my first one in the system. The second thing says that 3 times the width, so 3 times y, equals 2 times the length, so that's 2x. Now we have to find the width and the length of the garden, so we're going to have to find both. Okay, so for this one, you can solve for y. I'm going to use substitution again, but you can choose which method you want to use. I see that my x is equal to 2y minus 3, so I'm going to plug it in there. So 3y is equal to not 2 times x, but 2 times its equivalent, which is 2y minus 3. And so I get 3y is equal to 4y minus 6, using the distributive property. So now I'm going to solve, and I get negative y is equal to negative 6. So I divide both sides by negative 1, and I have y is equal to 6. If you get a negative answer, then something went wrong, because you can never have a negative length. Okay, so this means that our width is 6 meters. Okay, that's our first answer. To get our second answer, all we have to do is plug it back in. I can plug it back in anywhere that has an x. So I'm going to stick with the first one. I'll plug it in here. So x is equal to 2. Instead of putting y, I'll put 6 because I know what it is, minus 3. So x is equal to 9. And that means that length is 9 meters. Please include the unit. So that's the answer for that one. For number 5, we have that twice one number is 28 more than a second number. So we have one number, which is x, and a second number, which is y. So let's make the first one. Twice one number, so 2 times x, is, which means equals, 28 more than, so that means plus, a second number, which we said is y. For the second one, it says that when 23 is added, so when I take 23 and I add it to the second number, which is y, the result is, that means equals, 12 less than. So remember, when we see this less than, it's subtraction, meaning that we're going a little backwards. So we're going to subtract 13 from 3 times the first number. So that's 3 times x. What are the numbers? So we have to solve for x and y. So for this one, I'm going to just solve for y for both of them, and I'll just use my graphing tool to find the intersection. So for the first one, I'll solve the one at the bottom first. So all I have to do is subtract 23 from both sides. So I have y is equal to 3x minus 35. Put a little box around that because I'll use that. Now for the second one, I'll rewrite it. All I have to do is subtract 28 from both sides. Please make sure that you only combine like terms. These aren't like terms, so I have 2x minus 28 is equal to y. This is my second one. So if you graph these two, you will not need a large window for this. You have small numbers. So when you graph these two, you will get that x is equal to 7 and y is equal to negative 14. If you're ever unsure about your answers, you can always plug them back into the original, plug your y in here and your x in there, and see if it gives you a true statement. If so, then you're right. Well, at least you know that you're on the right track. Number 6, help Mark solve the following homework problem in geometry. Two angles are complementary. Now, complementary means that adds up to 90 degrees if we're talking about angles. Okay, so two angles are complementary. One angle is 36 degrees more than twice the other. Find the measure of each angle. So first of all, the two things that we're talking about are the angles. So one angle is x and the other is y. So let's talk about the first system. They say two angles are complementary. So that means that when I take x and I add it to y, it adds up to 90. The second thing says that one angle is, which means equals, 36 more than, so I'm adding 36 to twice the other. So that's 2 times y. Now I can go ahead and solve these. So I'll solve for y. So I have to subtract. So that gives me y is equal to 90 minus x. Here you subtract 36 from both sides. And let me put a line so that we can separate these two. So you get x minus 36 is equal to 2y. Then you just divide everything by 2. So you can actually leave it in your calculator as this if you like. Just use parentheses. But if you want to simplify it, that's fine. So these are the two things that you would put in your graphing utility and find the intersection. Once you do that, you will get that x is equal to 72 degrees. Please include the unit. And y is equal to 18 degrees. And you can see that they both do add up to 90. And if you plug them back into this equation, it will also work. The last one I'm going to do is another solution. I just put them next to each other so that it will be easier for me to solve it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solve for y. Subtracting 8x from both sides, and I get negative 4y is equal to negative 8x plus 14. Last thing to do is divide everything by 4, and I'll simplify it this time. So I get y is equal to positive 2x minus 7 over 2. And you don't have to simplify it if you don't want to. It'll still work in the calculator as long as you use parentheses correctly. For the second one, I'm going to add 4x to both sides. Which leaves me with 2y is equal to 4x minus 7. And then we divide everything by 2. And you get y is equal to 2x minus 7 over 2. They're the same. This is what we call collinear, okay? They're actually the same line. So what's going to happen is you're going to have infinite solutions. In other words, anything that works for this is going to work for this. Why? Because they're the same line. So it's not